All right. This is for Refuah Shlema of Gedalia Moreno ben Matilda. We live in a very interesting time where we're exposed to many cultures and so on and so forth. And there's always an infiltration of cultural ideas and practices. I mean, throughout history, there was in it. But, more or less, people have their own traditions, their own cultures. And traditions are beautiful things. I mean, not necessarily it's something that you have to do, but traditions are very nice. I'll give you, for example, some Chinese traditions, let's say, regarding marriage. The ceremonies are very, very beautiful. You have the Chatan and Kala, the bride, Kala, it's not Chatan and Kala, the bride and the groom. She wears a white dress for the ceremony, and before the ceremony, they kneel down in front of the parents, and they ask the parents for blessing. The father gives a blessing to the groom. The mothers feed the bride with lotus soup. Lotus soup is prosperity and blah blah blah, the whole entire thing. Throughout the ceremony, they change dresses to the feast that they have. They change dresses. They put a red dress and this dress and that kind of dress. And I mean, they have like a tradition. Some Chinese to let's say on the bed which the bride and groom are going to sleep, they bring a baby boy to jump on the bed, so it'll be like a good omen for them to have baby boys, and zera shel kaima, and they eat fish, and they eat. It's a very interesting ceremony, very beautiful, very, very beautiful. Indians, in India have a customs where, they stand under some kind of almost like a canopy, and the chatan, okay, whatever. The groom holds a sash or some kind of a cloth from silk, and he's in the center, and the bride spins around him like the moon spins the earth. She spins around him 7 times, and so on and so on. Very interesting stuff. The colors, and they do henna. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. I mean, traditions are beautiful. Just very, very interesting. They have nothing to do with me. I'm a Jew, and I have my own traditions. Actually, we don't have our own traditions. I'm reading recently a book about the Jews of Saloniki and their traditions. And I was sitting there yesterday, and I said, oh my goodness, how much have we lost? And we became like, our weddings are not. I'll give you an example. The ceremonies, as they used to do when the Kala goes to the mikveh, right? So, of course, she purifies herself and so on and so forth. Before she goes to the mikveh, it was a whole procession. In Izmir, it was the same thing. In Izmir, was the same thing. They would make processions to the bathhouse. The Chatan will go to the men's mikvah. The women will go to the women's mikvah. There will be bands, and they will play music. Women will play music. They will go to the hammam, which is a bathhouse, and there's a mikveh. And they would play and music, and they will bring food. There will be a whole entire feast. And right before the Kala goes to immerse herself, she stands on the side of the mikvah, and her mother cuts her nails as the sign of preparation for purity. The mother cuts her nails, and they put it on a tray with some confettis and stuff like that. And then when she goes to the mikvah, they had candles, like usually 2 or 4 big candles, so it will be like, I guess, romantic or whatever, I don't know. But she goes to the mikveh, and in Saloniki, they actually used to throw cubes of sugar into the mikveh. So, who does this today? Who does these things today? So many minhagim, so many beautiful minhagim that they had. So many beautiful minhagim that we had. Today, we don't have any of them. For example, the whole dancing of Chatan and Kala, the way we have it today is fairly new. If you look at all ancient cultures, they're similar. Whether it's Chinese or Jewish, the main thing is the seudah, the meal. They're sitting down, they have a meal, they have a feast, they have a banquet, and so on and so forth. by the Chinese people. They would knock on the door, the Khatan and Kala, the bride and groom going to the room, they knock on the door, they open the door, all the friends, "Whoa, come in," and go like this, and then, just to tease them a little bit. The same thing by the Jews of Saloniki, they had similar minhagim. Out there, just to show you different minhagim, they will go and says, "Okay, it's time," and then slowly, people will depart, and beautiful, beautiful stuff. It has nothing to do with us. What I wanted to tell you is that not only look at this, for example, if an American person, and I'm not talking from a racist point of view at all. Let's say a white man marries, usually, right? That's usually what happens, marries a Chinese woman. Somebody will have to give up, and somebody is not going to be happy, because imagine the guy is like a wasp from Locust Valley, Long Island, right? And she is a Cantonese woman. They have completely different traditions. But you want to tell me that the wasps from Locust Valley or from Oyster Bay over there will be okay with all kind of like quote unquote crazy Chinese ceremonies, where everybody sits down and they're drinking and going chatan dekala, hey, drinking l'chaim. What is this? They want the people who play with the harp and with the tuxedos. So if you're going to do a Chinese style wedding, the white people are not going to be happy. And if you're going to do a white man's wedding, the Chinese people say, hey, well, where's our tradition? Where's the good almonds for prosperity and eating fish and eating carp? And where is this thing? We're not happy. So you do chetzi. Yeah. So you do a little bit Chinese, a little white. What happens? Nobody's happy. And then you take the traditions and you basically throw them away. You denied really who you are. So not only traditions are a beautiful thing. I think Chinese people should hold on to their traditions. And Indians should hold on to their traditions. Or the ceremonies of eulogy, of mourning for Irish is different than Muslims, different than Jews. And why are we the ones to give this up? I think not only, I'm not talking about interracial, because interracial is pure racism. I don't have a problem if a Jew marries a Jew who is black, or a Jew that is, a redhead Jew should marry an Oriental Jew or Yemenite Jew. What do I care? They're Jewish, I don't care. Who cares? But in terms of the culture, because something very interesting happens when you mix cultures in such a forceful way. You basically denying yourself, and that's the problem of intermarriage. When a Jew marries a non-Jew, imagine, for example, argument, let's say I'm married, I'm very happy I'm married, but let's say, for example, I find myself a very nice Chinese woman, intellectual, she's from Shanghai, I don't know, a lawyer, I don't know, whatever she is. And I want to marry her. I'm a Jew. I want to marry her. How could I explain to her the reasoning behind not cooking on Shabbat? You can or the ways we cook on Yom Tov, the concept of ochel nefesh, and the fact that we don't eat pork and we don't eat shrimp, and we do. How can I explain to her about God? How can I explain to her what is it to be a Jew? I can't. How could I do that? I'm not saying that they're stupid, don't get me wrong. They're very smart and brilliant people. But they don't understand that because it has nothing to do with them. How can I explain to a Chinese person that I don't answer telephones on Shabbat, that I don't look at the internet, I don't drive, I don't turn electricity? They say, what are you sitting in the dark all the time? I mean, they just don't understand. And not only Chinese, and other people as well. Everybody's talking about the shidduch crisis. Why won't we talk and do something about the intermarriage problem? That's the real crisis, not the shidduch crisis. So what happens is the following. Let's say, for example, I'm going to, let's say, Chaz v'Shalom, marry this Chinese woman. So what do I have to say? What do I have to do in order to make it work? I mean, why am I marrying her? It's only on a physical matter. Okay? So on the physical matter, for that I will have to wipe away completely, deny completely who I am. So you're going to argue with me and say to me, well, that's only for you because you are a Torah observant Jew. And I said, every Jew knows that. Every Jew knows what Shabbat is. Every Jew knows what Yom Kippur is. Every Jew knows those things. They just deny it. So I will have to deny myself for that. And therefore it becomes a one-way street. It's a relationship that inherently is going to fail because one side will have to give up for the other. And that's a recipe for failure. Now on the other hand, let's say I married a Chinese woman and she really wants to become Jewish. It's interesting to her. And what I will say, she has a Jewish soul. I've seen it many times that a spouse that wasn't Jewish wanted to become a Jew, and the Jew put all the obstacles from them to really becoming real full-fledged Shomer Shabbat and Shomer Torah Mitzvot. Well, we don't need to do this. Because it is in a way a slap in your face to realize that you actually denied yourself, denied your culture, and gave up everything. And if it's not right for me to give up my culture and my own identity as a person, as a nation, why do you think it's okay for me to ask from somebody to do that for them? Why should that Chinese person, argument's sake, should give up their culture for me? Isn't that selfish? Isn't that again a one-way relationship? Now you understand why 75% of intermarriage is doomed to fail. In other words, when you are intermarrying, you are, in a way, signing yourself for a failure, for a divorce. Because of that, because it's an unhealthy relationship. And what bothers me even more so is some Orthodox rabbis that try to play Sanhedrin. They find all kind of different ways to convert people without supervising them if they are going to be Shomer Torah Mitzvot. What's the point in converting, quote unquote, converting people if they're not going to do Shomer Torah Mitzvot fully? What's the purpose of that? I mean, you haven't done a thing. So you're going to tell me, it's better off he will eat the sauce, the gravy, but he not eat the Isur itself, right? And I'll tell you, you're wrong. Because now what you're doing to him, you're making him eat the Isur with a rabbinical stamp on it. And as a rabbi, you should stand guard. And I'll say, okay, the guy is a Kohen. I know he married a Goya, and I'm going to give him an Aliyah anyway. Why? Because he gives me a lot of money. And we should stop with this mass conversions that certain individuals do. Mass conversions. For what? Why do I need this? I cannot keep my own people. I have people that go to Yeshiva and they become Choser B'She'elah. They leave the Jewish faith. I cannot hold them. So I'm going to bring more Jews in to do what? Let me take care of my own people. Let me take care of all the secular Jews who don't keep Shomer Torah Mitzvot. Judaism right now stands on a brink of a catastrophe, especially here in the United States. You don't believe me? Look what happened to Argentina in all these years. Argentina was a place there's so many Jews there, and so many Jews are simply lost. I think within one generation, all the Argentinian Jews, those who are not Shomer Torah Mitzvot, are going to completely disappear. Why? Because they're all intermarried. So before we talk about the Shidduch crisis, we should really talk about the real crisis. We should talk about the intermarriage crisis. And the intermarriage crisis starts from within. And the reason is, many reasons. Excuse me, one of the reasons is maybe we don't offer people, quote unquote, something interesting enough, or good enough reason, or we don't present Judaism in the right light. So that's something we should look into. So therefore, appreciate your culture. Appreciate other people's culture. And understand that as much as your culture is important to you, their culture is important to them. And therefore you cannot intermarry them because it's gonna be wrong. It's gonna be a bad relationship to begin with. Okay? And on top of that, you need to learn your cultures. You need to learn your traditions. It's not the global village for Judaism that every wedding looks the same. Can you tell me what Sephardim do different than Ashkenazim in a wedding? You can't. And that's not good. So you need to learn your culture. You need to learn who you are. You need to learn what you are and what you're about. Doing that would allow you to become a better Jew because now you know why are you doing the things you're doing. You put a price on everything that you do because you came, and the price came because you learned to evaluate it. And now that you know it's important and you know it is expensive, you're going to guard it, you're going to keep it. Help those who struggle with it, and let's do something about it. As I said, we say we are a rescue unit here, and we have to live by the statement, no Jew left behind. You cannot do it, and if you see people who are engaged in intercultural relationship in terms of like they dating non-Jews, don't be embarrassed to say it and say it out loud. If you see even a rabbi who is doing things inappropriately, with all due respect and with a lot of respect, approach him and says, why are you doing what you're doing? You're entitled for an answer. Conversion should not be something that you spend $2,000, $3,000, $1,000 on. It should not be something you pay money to. And maybe we should be a little bit more careful with that. So have a nice day, and stay loyal to who you are.